Hello everyone and welcome to my Bold and Beautiful Today channel.
Will and Luna's sexy encounter leads Taylor to suggest marriage to Ridge. Ridge Forrester will be taken aback by Taylor Hayes' extravagant gesture, which may have an impact on their future. In BNB's weekly preview video, Taylor confesses her desire to marry Ridge and gives him her own engagement ring. Ridge appears uneasy and unsure that this remarriage step is the correct one, but Taylor presses him to assure her that he wants that too. Since Nick Marone will be in the vicinity of this proposition, he will locate Brooke Logan at Forrester Creations and provide updates on the unexpected development. Brooke will question what Ridge said when Nick acknowledges that Taylor proposed to him by pulling out a ring. If Nick didn't stay long enough to find out, he might not know for sure. In any case, Nick might interpret this as evidence that Brooke has to stop thinking about Ridge. Nick will once more offer to be the man Brooke needs and give her a chance at a different future because he believes she deserves better. In the weekly advertisement for BNB, Will Spencer also visits Luna Nozawa's apartment and confesses that he ended his relationship with Electra Forrester because he doesn't find her exciting. Needless to say, this will most likely be Luna's fantasy of what may occur if Will decided to enjoy sizzling with her rather than boring Electra. In the teaser video, Luna is shown seeking assurance that Will enjoys danger before kissing him and nuzzling his neck. If Will is attempting to capture Luna in some way, he might actually be doing all of this, but at this point, the fantasy angle seems more plausible. With Will and their potential romantic relationship with Electra out of the way, Luna's imagination might go wild. Luna may grow more obsessed with robbing Electra of her man the more she fantasizes about Will. Ridge's awkward choice, Brooke's gloats, and Taylor's proposal. Taylor Hayes will make a marriage proposal. However, Ridge Forrester finds himself in a difficult situation as a result of Taylor's romantic plea. Let's discuss the upcoming events in the CBS soap opera as you continue reading. Fans of Brooke Logan's gloating remember that during Friday's episode, Brooke Logan dropped off some documents at Eric Forrester's estate. Taylor was compelled to inquire about Nick Marone's return while she was there. Although it was pleasant to get back in touch with Nick, Brooke acknowledged that the sea is his true calling. Brooke then boasted about Ridge becoming envious and ordering her to avoid Nick. See what transpired in the most recent BNB episode by reading this. The marriage proposal of Taylor Hayes. Taylor and Ridge are seated at a little table with a flower in the middle of it in the weekly preview clip. It appears that Il Giardino may be the location. Taylor spills her heart out as they sit in the private space. The psychiatrist then begs Ridge to wed her. Despite Taylor's love for Ridge, her unexpected proposal comes across as desperate. Ridge Forrester's uncomfortable response. According to Monday, June 23 spoilers on The Bold and the Beautiful, Ridge is rendered speechless as Taylor pops the question. But not in a positive way. Ridge puts his palm to his mouth clumsily, but his thoughts are obvious. Despite his deep love for Taylor, Ridge may decline her proposal. Ridge is obviously still in love with Brooke. But Taylor developed broken heart syndrome as a result of her sadness. Therefore, even though Ridge is in love with Brooke, that might keep him from abandoning Taylor. Ridge might possibly say yes, but that would only mean that something will happen on the wedding day. The dream of Luna Nozawa. Next up is Luna Nozawa. Will Spencer can be seen entering Luna's apartment in a weekly teaser film. They then discuss how Will left Electra Forrester because he didn't find her exciting enough. Will confesses that he enjoys danger, and Luna gives her ideal boy a passionate kiss. But this doesn't seem like anything Will would say or do. I'm going to venture a guess and believe that this is just another of Luna's hallucinogenic fantasies. But Luna will stop at nothing to fulfill her aspirations. This implies that there may be other people in serious risk besides Hayes Forrester Finnegan and Steffi Forrester Finnegan. Taylor Hayes had always believed love could conquer all, especially when it came to Ridge Forrester, the man who had repeatedly shaped and shattered her world. The day began like any other at the Forrester estate, sun casting golden halos through high windows, but something was different in Taylor's heart. There was resolve, burning like wildfire behind her eyes. For too long she had lingered in Ridge's orbit, clinging to the what-ifs and maybes that had defined their long, winding, often torturous love story. But now, she was tired of waiting for fate to decide. Now, she would seize her destiny. So, with trembling hands and a diamond ring she had custom designed, a brilliant, subtle statement of self-assurance and romantic commitment, Taylor marched into Ridge's life with the kind of determination that turns heads and shifts paradigms. Ridge, taken aback by the sudden gesture, stood with a mixture of surprise and dread as Taylor dropped to one knee in the grand foyer of his home, her voice trembling but passionate as she declared that she wanted to be his wife, again, not just out of history, but out of hope, because she believed they still had something unique, something worth fighting for. She held out the ring, eyes shimmering with vulnerability, daring him to match her courage. "Ridge," she whispered, "I want to marry you. Not tomorrow. Not someday. Now." Her words echoed through the marble-clad hallway, heavy with expectation. Ridge looked down at her, his signature furrowed brow deepening as he struggled to find his bearings in this unexpected storm of love. His mouth opened slightly, but no sound came. The silence, thick and palpable, was interrupted only by the sharp click of shoes approaching. Nick Marone, who had been on his way to speak with Ridge about a business matter, came to a stunned halt as he witnessed the intimate scene unfolding before him. He ducked out of sight before either of them could see him, heart thudding with disbelief. Moments later, Taylor rose slowly, sliding the ring back into her pocket as Ridge's indecision lingered like a cloud between them. "Tell me you want this," she urged, her voice steadier now, almost defiant. "Say yes." But Ridge couldn't, not yet. Not with so much still unresolved in his heart, especially where Brooke was concerned. Nick didn't wait around for Ridge's answer. He left the estate in a whirlwind of conflicted emotions and soon found himself striding into Forrester Creations, where Brooke Logan was reviewing designs with a weary but sharp eye. When she saw Nick, she tilted her head in curious surprise. He hadn't been around in weeks. "What's got you looking like you've seen a ghost?" she asked, half joking. Nick didn't mince words. "Taylor proposed to Ridge," he announced bluntly, watching Brooke's face pale ever so slightly. She blinked, stunned, then composed herself with practiced elegance. "What did Ridge say?" she asked, trying to sound indifferent. Nick shrugged. "Didn't stick around to find out." "But does it matter?" "The fact that she proposed, again, should tell you where her head is. And maybe it's time to stop letting Ridge live rent-free in yours." Brooke forced a smile, but her mind was already 1,000 miles away, replaying old memories of passion, betrayal, and heartbreak. Nick, always the straight shooter with a not-so-secret longing for Brooke, stepped closer. "You deserve better. You always have. Let Ridge go, Brooke. Let me be the man you need. I'm here, and I've never stopped wanting a real future with you." His words hung heavy in the air, tempting her with a simpler path, but her heart remained entangled in the web of Ridge's love, for better or worse. Meanwhile, in a far less emotionally mature corner of Los Angeles, another storm was brewing, this one in the form of lust, fantasy, and forbidden desire. Luna Nozawa had been alone in her apartment when the knock came. She opened the door to find Will Spencer standing there with that trademark Spencer smirk, radiating the kind of bad boy charm that made women swoon and parents despair. He stepped inside, close enough for Luna to catch the subtle spice of his cologne. "I broke up with Electra," he said coolly, tossing his keys on the counter as though they belonged there. Luna's heart skipped a beat. "You, what?" she stammered, eyes wide. "Yeah," he replied, running a hand through his tousled hair. "She doesn't challenge me. Doesn't excite me. But you're dangerous, Luna. I like danger." It was like the start of a dream, or rather, it was a dream. Because none of it was real. In truth, Will hadn't broken up with Electra. He hadn't said a word to Luna. The entire scenario was playing out in Luna's mind as she sat curled up on the couch, lost in a fantasy that had taken on a life of its own. In her imagination, Will's lips were just inches from hers, his breath warm against her skin as he whispered things that lit a fire in her veins. She imagined herself nuzzling his neck, her hands roaming his chest, their mouths colliding in a kiss that was reckless, hungry, and utterly wrong. But in her fantasy, wrong felt so very right. And the more she played it out in her mind, the more intoxicated she became by the thought of stealing Electra's boyfriend. In her real life, Luna had always been the cautious one, the sweet girl with the good grades and the polished exterior. But in her fantasies, she was bold, unapologetic, and utterly fearless. The dichotomy pulled at her, threatened to unravel her carefully curated self-image. What Luna didn't know, however, was that Will had noticed her. Whether it was genuine interest or calculated curiosity, he had seen the way her eyes lingered a second too long, the way her body stiffened when Electra clung to his arm. He liked being wanted. And if he ever decided to make a move, Luna wouldn't know whether it was real or just another mind game in the endless drama that was their world. For now, though, it remained a fantasy, but one that would become harder and harder to resist. Every time Electra posted a photo of herself with Will, Luna's stomach twisted with jealousy and longing. Every laugh they shared in public felt like a personal attack. The seed of obsession had been planted, and it was growing fast, fed by forbidden cravings and the sweet, addictive poison of what if. Back in the world of the adults, Taylor spent the next day in a haze of uncertainty. Ridge hadn't given her a yes, but he hadn't said no either. That limbo was the worst place of all. She tried to focus on her patients, her work, her children, but her mind kept drifting back to the moment she offered Ridge the ring and his face crumpled with doubt. Was she a fool for trying? Or was she brave? At the same time, Ridge sat alone on the terrace of the Forrester estate, staring at the skyline and nursing a scotch. His heart was a battlefield. On one side was Taylor, steady, safe, loving. On the other, Brooke, chaotic, passionate, consuming. He hated that he was still caught between them after all these years. But the truth was, Ridge Forrester was a man who had never truly made peace with himself, let alone with love. He didn't know if he ever would. The days that followed were tense. Brooke avoided Ridge at the office. Nick made it a point to be around more often, always with that "I told you so" glint in his eye. Taylor, for her part, put on a brave face but secretly began to regret her impulsive proposal. Meanwhile, Luna's fantasies intensified, especially after Will posted a vague Instagram story of himself at a cafe she frequented, alone. Had he been thinking of her? Was it a sign? She began dressing with more care, experimenting with bolder makeup, flirting with danger in small but thrilling ways. Every glance from Will, imagined or real, sent her spiraling further into desire. And then came the day she accidentally ran into him, their eyes locking in a moment thick with unspoken tension. He smiled. She blushed. The game was on. And so, the drama unfolds, Taylor waiting for an answer she may never get, Ridge battling the ghosts of his heart, Brooke questioning whether to reopen old wounds or start a new chapter with Nick, and Luna slowly, seductively crossing the line between daydream and seduction. Each of them standing at the edge of something irreversible. Each of them about to make a choice that could shatter lives or set them free. The golden California sun dipped low as the day wound toward dusk, casting a soft amber glow over Il Giardino's patio where Taylor Hayes sat across from Ridge Forrester. The setting was picturesque, intimate, with a single white rose in a vase between them, symbolizing what could be purity, a truce, or maybe one final attempt to rekindle a fractured love. Taylor's hands trembled slightly as she reached for her glass of red wine, trying to steady her racing heart. She'd rehearsed this moment 1,000 times in her mind, imagining a dozen different versions of Ridge's reaction. She'd imagined laughter, joyful tears, passionate embraces. She'd imagined him saying yes. But now, looking into Ridge's uncertain eyes, her confidence flickered. "Ridge," she began, her voice soft, almost cracking under the weight of everything unsaid between them. "We've been through so much, haven't we? The betrayals, the misunderstandings, the heartbreak. But through it all, there's one truth that I've never been able to run from: I love you." Her hand reached across the table, brushing his fingers. "I want to spend the rest of my life with you. Will you marry me?" The question hovered in the air like smoke, thick and unrelenting. Ridge's eyes widened, and he leaned back in his chair as if the proposal physically struck him. A man of emotion and intensity, Ridge often led with his heart, but this moment found him uncharacteristically speechless. His hand went to his mouth, not to cover a gasp but more like a reflex, a stalling mechanism as his mind scrambled for clarity. This wasn't just about Taylor. This was about Brooke. About the history. The pull. The magnetism. The unfinished business that still burned in the corners of his heart. He looked at Taylor, beautiful, brilliant, steady, and yet, his thoughts kept drifting to Brooke's laughter, her defiant strength, her touch. Just a few days earlier, Ridge had watched from the shadows as Brooke dropped off some documents at Eric Forrester's estate. Her golden hair shimmered in the light, her smile easy, even playful as she chatted with Eric and then with Taylor. But it wasn't her beauty that had caught Ridge off guard, it was the way she spoke about Nick Marone. Nick is the sea, she had said, brushing the topic off with a wistful chuckle. He's not made for landlocked romance. Not anymore. But there was something else in her tone, a subtle dig, a play, a game of emotional chess that Brooke excelled at. Taylor had picked up on it too, asking questions about Nick's return, poking at Brooke's calm facade. But it was Brooke who delivered the final blow. Funny, she'd said, eyes glinting. Ridge got so jealous when I told him I'd seen Nick again. Told me to stay away, in fact. Her lips curled into a victorious smile. Taylor had bristled then, but said nothing. Yet, the words planted seeds of doubt and urgency. Maybe that was the moment she decided to propose, to secure Ridge before Brooke could sweep in and reclaim him. Now, here they were. Ridge still silent. Taylor's smile faltered, her voice uncertain now. I know this is sudden. Maybe even reckless, she admitted. But life is too short. We both know that better than anyone. I don't want to waste another second wondering what could have been. She paused, her gaze sharpening. Unless you're still in love with Brooke. Ridge opened his mouth, closed it, then finally spoke. Taylor. I do love you. That's never been the question. But marriage? That's huge. I need time. It was a coward's answer, and they both knew it. But what could he say? That every time he closed his eyes, he saw Brooke? That Taylor's kindness felt safe, but Brooke's chaos felt like home? The silence between them thickened, and Ridge reached for his wine, swallowing hard. He hated hurting Taylor. She had already suffered so much. Her heartbreak after his last betrayal had even led to a medical scare, broken heart syndrome. The doctors had warned him, more emotional trauma could have serious effects on Taylor's health. Could he really risk that? Could he say no and live with the consequences? Meanwhile, across town, Brooke Logan lounged by the pool at her own estate, sipping Chardonnay and replaying her earlier conversation with Taylor in her mind. The way Taylor's eyes had narrowed when she mentioned Nick. The way Ridge's name still drew a visible reaction. She could feel the winds shifting, knew that Taylor was growing desperate. It was only a matter of time before she made her move, and Brooke would be ready. After all, this wasn't her first battle for Ridge, and history always repeated itself in Los Angeles. She smiled to herself. She had something Taylor didn't, Ridge's soul. His passion. His weakness. And if he was being pulled between two women again, Brooke knew how to play the long game. She always had. Her confidence wasn't arrogance, it was earned. Ridge always came back. Always. But Taylor's proposal wasn't the only drama swirling through the Forrester universe. Back at Luna Nozawa's apartment, things were taking a strange, steamy turn. Will Spencer, son of Dollar Bill, Heartbreaker, and recent ex of Electra Forrester, stood in Luna's doorway, his smirk suggesting mischief. She's just not exciting, he said, referencing Electra. You're different. Then, in a scene straight out of a romance novel, Luna kissed him passionately, wrapping her arms around his neck as the camera panned slowly across the room. But something didn't sit right. Will's sudden interest, the over-the-top compliment, the dreamlike lighting. It was too perfect. Too scripted. That's because it was a script, inside Luna's mind. This was another fantasy, a delusion shaped by her growing obsession with having the perfect life, the perfect love, the perfect future. The truth? Will hadn't even called her. But that wouldn't stop Luna. She was ready to do whatever it took to make her dreams real. Even if it meant hurting people. Even if it meant tearing apart the already fragile threads of the Forrester family. And in that storm of emotional chaos, Taylor's desperate bid for love, Ridge's paralyzing indecision, Brooke's strategic smirks, and Luna's creeping instability, the stage was set for another explosion. Because if Ridge did say yes to Taylor, it wouldn't be out of pure love. It would be out of guilt. Out of fear. Out of the hope that maybe, just maybe, he could silence his feelings for Brooke long enough to make it work. But love doesn't thrive in silence. And on the wedding day, with vows hanging in the air and all eyes watching, something, or someone, would break that silence. Brooke, perhaps, standing in the back of the chapel, her eyes glassy with tears and fire. Or Ridge himself, unable to say the words. Or Taylor, sensing the lie in his voice and calling it out before the ceremony could go on. After all, this is the bold and the beautiful, where weddings are rarely about happily ever after, and always about the storm that follows.